Welcome to Off-Grid Path. This is a 12-part series on how we converted a rundown static caravan into our dream cabin here in the UK. I want to deep dive into how we went from this dilapidated static caravan into our cosy cabin home with no experience whatsoever. For those of you who are wanting to do something similar, I'll be taking you through all of the things that worked really well and also the countless mistakes and things that definitely didn't work throughout the whole process. If you want to check out this series and more videos like this, then just head over to my YouTube channel Off-Grid Path and subscribe for more updates. Welcome to part 8 of our cabin build series, and in this part we are going to be using scaffold board to sort out the top of the kitchen work surface and burning it to get that finished look that I was hoping for the cabin that I kind of envisioned from the start. So we've built the kind of main structure of the kitchen, and that's absolutely solid using CLS and stud work. And now it's a case to put the scaffold board on top, measure out those cuts, because that was going to go straight onto the OSB on top, and I had plans to then burn that to create that kind of finished effect for the worktop. So, but just very simply, we are just measuring out these cuts, and you know, for me, this is very new because all of the cuts needed to be good. They needed to be neat, and you know, so I was taking a lot of care in terms of like making nice clean cuts, double measuring everything to ensure that one, I wasn't wasting wood, because scaffold boards aren't that cheap really, but they're, you know, you just want to make the most out of it, but also get some nice neat cuts. So really trying to make sure that these edges were lined up perfectly and double checking everything. At this point, one of the real mistakes that I made that I was really quite gutted about and still am, and it's a stupid mistake, I drilled these scaffold boards from the top down into the OSB and also the CLS, so it was a solid fixing. What I could have done and what I should have done, and I really don't know why I didn't, was drill from underneath into the wood. I could have found the perfect length screws that would have bit into the scaffold board, and then you wouldn't see any drill marks at all in the scaffold board. I still think about this to this day, and I just don't know why I didn't think about it. I don't know why I didn't do that. It's not the end of the world, it really isn't, but it was a bit of a stupid move. I just don't quite know why I did it. However, with those drill holes where I drilled through the scaffold board, I did end up using a bit of wood filler to fill those up. And to be honest, once it's been burnt after the fact, you can't really see them. It's not too bad, but it is just one of those little things that just bugs me a little bit. But you know, this is kind of learning through doing, and I won't make that mistake again in the future. So it was a good lesson learned. So now we're kind of fitting the kitchen sink, which was gifted to us, so that was fantastic. And that's just a case of making a few measurements, getting a bit of OSB on top. And what was really nice, initially we did have the idea of having a Belfast sink. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially like a China sort of rectangular deep sink. I quite like those. They're fairly fashionable, and you can pick them up in salvage yards, but they're not cheap. You know, people sell them for a lot more than what they're really worth, and I guess that's just down to kind of fashion and what people like. However, what I would say about that is I'm really glad we were given this sink, because it's a composite material, but it's no fuss. And having used it in a real life scenario now, the practicality of it over a Belfast sink is brilliant, because it's got its kind of drip tray built in, and with a Belfast sink we would have had to have thought about, you know, getting a separate kind of drying rack, because obviously we don't have a dishwasher. You know, we're just washing things by hand, which is absolutely fine, but we would have had to have got like a dish dryer kind of thing, and a lot of water. You would have just had a lot of water lying on wood all the time, which you would have had to manage and wipe off, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but the practicality of this sink that was given to us was really, in hindsight, was actually better. So, and it was free, so it was always a winner. Now just working on the other side, the side I'm sitting on now, for the bookshelf, and this was the first time I've ever burnt wood, and you'll see here that I'm burning the wood for the shelves for the bookshelf on this side of the island, and I really didn't burn them enough. You can see I'm still a bit gutted about it. Really didn't give them much of a burn. What I found out was when you're burning wood, you can't really burn it too much because you can always sand it back to its original form. You can sand out all of that burning and it will just be like brand new wood. I mean, obviously you're taking off little layers, but so I would say if you've never burnt wood and you're thinking about doing it, don't worry about burning it too much because you can sand it back to the effect that you want. Whereas with these shelves, I just didn't burn them enough and it's a bit kind of not that great. It's just, yeah, it's not the look I was going for, and it really depends on what kind of effect you want from it after the fact. So it's just one thing to bear in mind. Burn it as much as you can. You can see me sanding it back, and it's barely looks like anything. It's just a bit of a weak look, I think. Yeah, really nice to get these shelves in. Just wanted a nice tight fit. And I was thinking of various ways of trying to hang these, and in the end I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put some dividers in the middle just to ensure that they're supported. I was thinking about putting a couple of chocks at the end to support them, and the scaffold board would have been easily strong enough to do that. But I thought, you know, I might just divide it in the middle with a couple of bits here that you can see. And that actually worked out quite nicely and kind of gave it a bit more of a bookshelf vibe. So I did hire out a industrial sander for the day, and I'm really glad I did. This was for the floor. So when we're using 6x1, the 6x1's quite rough. It's treated. It's not nice to walk on if you're barefoot or anything like that. You know, if you could probably get splinters quite easy. So I wanted to sand the floor properly. I was never going to do that with a hand sander. It needed to be something industrial. So I hired a sander for the day, which actually, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I was surprised that it wasn't too bad. Maybe about 30-40 quid for the day, which is not too bad really, and for what it did, it really sped up the time, bearing in mind we were on a bit of a time constraint to get in by Christmas. So that was great. And I also, while we had it, I just ended up using it on the top of the work surface as well. Instead of like going down, with the hand sander and spending hours doing that, we just kind of lifted it up, me and a mate, and just used it on the work surface for the kitchen, which really helped. Used a bit of that filler, filled in the gaps, and then after that we just lifted that massive sander up, and just that really saved some time just getting the industrial sander on the surface, and really helped because we were going to use that as a work surface, so we just wanted it to be nice and smooth. So now we're at the stage where we are burning the wood on the work surfaces, and you can see the difference between when I did the shelves for the bookshelf and then this. I really got it pretty black. It took a long time. I only had a small blowtorch, didn't have to do a large section, but it did its job. But yeah, just a tiny blowtorch, and it was a lot of areas to burn. So it did take a while, but the effect was fantastic. And so once I'd burnt it all, burnt everything I needed to burn, got that all sort of sorted, and then basically started sanding it down. And at this point it was a case of sanding a bit and just seeing how it would come out and how much I wanted to sand it. Obviously the less you sand it, the darker it's going to be. The more you sand it, the more it's going to come back to that original form. And I wanted I wanted the grain to come out in the wood basically, and that's what burning wood does. It really brings out that grain. So I just kind of figured out that how much I needed to sand it, and then just did that throughout the whole lot. And then once we've done that, really cleaned it down, got all of the sort of sanding dust off, wiped it down with a kind of wet rag just to make sure it was completely clean, and then just used people ask, what oil did you use to oil the top of the work surface? It wasn't any particular oil. I just got, and it was about probably 4 litres sort of metal container, and it's just called rustic oil. That's all it's got. That's its name, and I probably got it off Amazon or something like that, off a woodworking website. It's not any specific special oil. It's just called rustic oil. I knew I was going to use that for this whole work surface and also the floor, because I wanted to oil the floor. So I just wanted a load of it, and you can see me using it in this. And once I oiled this and the floor, to be fair, it was just lovely, because the whole cabin was completely clean. We'd swept everything out and really cleaned it because we knew we were going to oil it, and I needed to leave that on for well, I needed that ideally to dry overnight. Bearing in mind this is kind of December now, so it was getting dark at kind of 4:30. So I lit the fire and made sure that the fire was going well, and then oiled, kind of worked my way out of the room. So started at the back and worked my way out. So I knew I wouldn't be able to get access to the fire as I was leaving. So I wanted that to be on with the fan on top, making sure it was nice and warm in here and drying out as quickly as possible. But once we had oiled everything, it was just a really lovely feeling walking out and seeing everything kind of glisten and look really, really nice. So it was a really lovely point to have the kitchen pretty much done in terms of the kind of woodworking side of it, and the floor laid and oiled, ready to go for the next day, where we can really start to progress everything from there. So that's the end of part 8. Join us next time for part 9, where we actually do a lot in that episode. We build pantry shelves, we install the toilet, which is very interesting, our off-grid toilet system, and we also build a wardrobe and shelving in the bedroom, and it's really starting to get these finishing touches on the go in part 9. So, but one of the interesting aspects out of that is the toilet system that we've got, because some of you might be interested in that in our kind of our solution for our off-grid toilet, because it is indoors and it works incredibly well. So thanks for watching part 8. Again, like always, if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you have got any value out of this, please like and share. It does make a huge difference. So thanks for your support, and hope to see you in part 9. Cheers.